Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood. And here's your host. He's all the Sith, and I am Iron Man. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Winfree. How do you do, sir?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in all seriousness, that entire finale sequence was just so blatantly ripped off from Endgame, it's not even funny.
I really did. I didn't stand, but I wanted to. However, when she does say, I am, when he goes, I am all the Sith, and she goes, I am, I just blurted out Iron Man. Mostly because I was trying to crack my friend Tom up, but that's all I could think of. And I thought she would, and I honestly thought she was then going to snap her fingers. But I digress. We have a movie to review, so I will leave it to you to hold the head of this dog, as it were.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that euphemism, but good to know.
Jim Cornette has a thing where he says, "You're the one fucking this dog. I'm just holding its head." That's what I'm going for here.
I think Eddie just got morally offended.
He should be mortified, but I'm not the one that said it. Jim Cornette said it. I'm just repeating it.
Yeah, you are.
You want to talk about Star Wars now?
You know, I wasn't sure you could come up with some other kind of, subject material to induce me to talking more about this quicker, but congratulations, Jim Cornette and bestiality will do it. That's an odd combination, but hey, good on you. Found a winning one.
I do try.
We are talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker on this particular episode of Damn You Hollywood, and while we had initially planned for a couple of other people to be here and participate, busy time of year, life gets in the way, etc., etc. So it is myself, we have Mark, you heard Alexis and Eddie in the background, and joining us from North Montana, we have David Wright.
How you doing, everyone? I'm doing okay, thanks. I've been chanting "Be with me" for the past 30 minutes, and I must say I'm pretty disappointed at the results. I would also like to take this moment to apologize to North Montana.
I heard that gag in what's that crappy Disney movie, Meet the Robinsons, where he. Okay, crappy might be an overstatement, but certainly forgettable.
Okay, I'll give you that. It's bland, but it's good. It's got a really good.
Yeah, and just he gets thrown into the future, and in the future, Canada has merged with the United States, and all of Canada is just North Montana. And there's actually a great line from Adam West, who, when he says North Montana, just says it as, only Adam West can actually say stuff like that. So I get some mileage out of that reference because very few people always necessarily get it, but they also understand exactly what I mean every time I say it. So anyway, we will be trying to hash out The Rise of Skywalker and everything that went wrong. Oh, so many things. It is kind of a shame that whichever Chris was going to be here but isn't, because I know he liked the movie.
Chris Bailey, yes. Chris Bailey's opinion on the matter... Chris Bailey's opinion on the matter is, fuck the critics, I'm a Star Wars fan, Star Wars is awesome, this was awesome, this was the movie we should have always gotten, and if you don't like it, well, I guess you're not a Star Wars fan. Which is definitely an opinion.
Well, what about me? I'm usually the optimistic one, and I like this movie.
Well, playing the part of Chris Bailey is Alexis Hejna. Terrific.
And playing the part of the pessimistic contingent will once again be me. I am typecast at this point.
Playing nothing. It's just you.
Yeah. You're the one who volunteers all the time.
Hey, that's only partially true. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this turkey. I'm going to apologize for the plot synopsis here because I'm going to largely be ripping off wholesale a YouTube video I saw today. That was just the the fictionalized pitch version of this movie, which is floating around YouTube and whatnot. If you haven't seen it, I laughed. I found it very funny. So I'm probably going to be cribbing from that rather heavily.
Is there a part where they go, and then the dam broke?
No.
But it was too late.
Nice one, Daffy.
Much as I do love that Looney Tunes bit, no. I shared it on Facebook, so Mark, if you haven't seen it, please look it up. It's amusing. All right, but the plot of this movie, such as it exists, in our opening scroll text, we get the revelation that there's a message from the Dread Emperor Palpatine. Because reasons. And everyone is looking for him now because, well, hey, in all fairness, he's a somewhat notorious figure.
I never really understood how it's like the dead speak. Everyone in the universe has heard it. I'm like, okay, so wait, did it show up on a broadcast signal? Did the TV get hijacked during Monday Night Football? Did everyone just suddenly hear him in their dreams?
You want to know what? No. You know what actually happened?
Can I please answer this?
Fine.
Okay. So there's a common phrase that gets bandied about, especially among YouTube reviewers. It seems a wizard did it. I think that's now going to be replaced with the Emperor did it, and it doesn't matter what he did or how he did it. He did it. So the dead, speaking of the Emperor, he spoke and everyone heard it, and that's it. That there's no other explanation needed. He speaks, you hear it because he's the Emperor. The Emperor did it.
On that note, bingo card players, check off Simpsons reference.
If I might be more serious, there is an actual answer to this because, hey, if he sent out this big message, maybe we could have put it in the movie. Apparently, it dropped during, it was you could find it in Fortnite. You could find the Emperor's message.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I don't think we're going to top that.
I wish I were joking.
Wow. All right, we're 30 seconds into this plot synopsis, but I need to talk about this for just one second.
We haven't got out of the scrolling text yet, baby.
So, my friend I'm going to be 44 in June, and so my friend of almost 44 years came down. I talked about this with Jesse. You'll get to hear some of this on the Lando podcast that drops Christmas Eve, and the comic book Lando. And when the prequels started up, wherever we were in the world, I was living in California at the time, he would fly to wherever I was, and we saw all the prequels together. So he flew to California when I was living there to see Phantom Menace. I moved back to New York around the time the Attack of the Clones was in theaters, and then I had moved to Florida, Miami to be specific, when Revenge of the Sith came out, and we made sure we were together for all of those. So the tradition continued with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and he came down to close out the series this past weekend, and we went to Disney. We did Galaxy's Edge, Smuggler's Run, that whole bit, and we were talking about how Lucasfilm had a pretty interesting idea, which was, hey, everything going forward from the purchase of Lucasfilm will be canon, but we won't limit it to films or even television shows. If it's in the ride, it's canon. So, if it's part of Galaxy's Edge, it's canon. It's a part of the larger narrative. If it's in the books, if it's in the comics, we're going to have this master Bible, and anything that has the Star Wars name on it will be part of this larger story. And he was telling me how there were things in The Rise of Skywalker that were in books, and they were part of the ride, and all this other extra narrative stuff because I had been complaining that they don't really flesh things out in this movie, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And he was like, well, you had to have read the book. You had to have read the comic. Well, that's going to be in the ride we're going to go on tomorrow. And creating an immersive experience for your IP, I think, is an interesting idea. However, I struggle with that sort of thing in terms of film craft, and I'll talk about that more later. But I just thought that was interesting because, like, there's a lot of stuff apparently in this movie that that apparently alludes to stuff elsewhere out in other media, whether it be comics, books, a ride, what have you. So I thought that was worth talking about for just a moment.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. What?
Well, fair enough. So, good to know going forward, I guess. We pick up the movie following Kylo Ren as he looks to find the Emperor, which he does, because, well, if he couldn't, there wouldn't be much of a movie. He finds a MacGuffin, it leads him to the place where the Emperor is, at which point he pulls a... I don't know how this movie managed to blow up two of our favorite gimmicks about this, but I genuinely can't decide between I'm the author of all your pain and suddenly Palpatine. They both fit. So he shows up there and is induced to help the Emperor under the promise of more power.
I gotta ask, seeing what was left of the Emperor hooked up to all of those tubes and everything, anyone else get a serious Hellraiser 2 vibe?
No, I divorced myself from all things good before I went into this movie.
Like Mark, I'm a big sissy when it comes to horror movies, so I haven't seen it.
It wasn't until near the end, when you see the contraption he's on kind of move around, that I really got the vibe from Hellraiser 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will give some credit to the effects, because Palpatine looks creepy for this, so credit for that, I guess. He unveils a giant fleet of Star Destroyers.
It's also at this point that if anyone has epilepsy, they are totally toast.
The local theaters put up signs saying that this movie had flashing lights. Please be careful. So they took steps.
They did. But yeah, that I imagine if you have if you're photosensitive like that, this would have been just the worst. Anyway, he unveils a giant fleet of Star Destroyers, all of which are individually equipped with super lasers, and then proceeds to send out a message to the galaxy saying, "Surrender or die." I'm sorry, I can't get over how stupid it is. Hey, giant fleet, A, out of nowhere, B, a potential to just wipe out whole solar systems, but I'm going to give you all 16 hours because the heroes need to have a fair chance.
And when we say out of nowhere, we literally mean out of nowhere. He holds up his hand, and this fleet, I can't tell if they emerged from the ground or the clouds.
They came out of the water.
Out of the waters, thank you. And yeah, it's just like, boom, look what I can do.
I think that makes me more impressed about the corrosion protection than the fact that they've got, lasers and can go into space.
In all honesty, yeah, if they've all been hidden away underwater for that long a period of time and are still functional like that, A+ engineering, man.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It is impressive when you realize that there's this cult of, I guess, Sith followers that are on this planet.
I'm getting shit because I talked about the fact that they created an immersive IP experience. You guys are talking about the magic that is Palpatine and his fleet construction ability. Awesome.
Okay, hang on. First of all, I didn't give you any crap. Second of all, look, this is an actual point in the movie, and the fact that it's so catastrophically ill-defined is a real problem.
You're right, it is. It's way stupid. But it's not even the 10th stupidest thing in the movie.
No, it's not. That should tell you what you're all in for.
For the record, before you go any further, there is something I think we need to clearly define in our review tonight. Okay. And that is what they were able to do with Carrie Fisher. This movie she had shot none of her scenes or anything before she passed away. Everything that we see of Carrie Fisher was literally unused footage from the previous two movies with her clothing and hair digitally edited. And I just want to say that That could not have been easy. And I was impressed with what they were able to do with her, considering that movie pretty much had to be completely rewritten to work with this.
I'll give credit to the effects team for this movie just generally. They do a stellar job. I mean, that's where all the budget went because it didn't go to the writers, so it better look good.
Well, I'm also talking about the fact that, unfortunately, all you could really do with Carrie Fisher in this movie was she could say maybe 1 or 2 lines at a time, and then they had to cut. We obviously did not have any grand speeches or anything recorded, and I feel that they still made her character work very well with what they had.
It does kind of bring up a potentially awkward point when you remember how close Leia came to dying in Last Jedi. If she had died and Luke had lived, elements of the production for this would have been very different, and not just the story narratively, but what you could do with the characters. Anyway, the rebels pick up this, and I'm just calling them the rebels because even though they're the resistance, they're the freaking rebels, you bunch of moron. Like, you deliberately not redacted. You crafted a reductive story so that everyone could have unbelievably similar feelings about everything. So yeah, they're the rebels. Suck it. The rebels actually... wait, how is Palpatine still alive? And some schmuck from Lost goes, dark magic of the Sith that could lead to all sorts of things. Well, what does that mean? It means get off my back. I'm a crappy writer.
If only they had another movie to establish all this stuff in.
Boy, that would have been nice.
Really biting my tongue at this point.
Anyway, we also have seen at this point Finn and Poe engaging in some guerrilla warfare tactics and subterfuge. There's a spy in the Empire. First Order my ass, it's the Empire. Rey is doing training with Leia, who despite... I'm not going to go into that. I'll save that. She's doing Jedi training, but wants to be out there fighting and is, in theory, struggling with something, but I don't know. It's never really made clear. And they all get together and okay, well, we've got to stop the Emperor, but he's on this planet. Testicle.
Exeter.
Phonetically similar.
Exicle, I think it is. Sounds like icicle.
I called it Microsoft Excel.
We'll go with Excel then. Okay, they're on Excel. And the only way to get there is with a MacGuffin, but in order to get the MacGuffin, you got to go to a different place and get another MacGuffin that'll lead you to the place with the actual MacGuffin, which will lead you to the place with the Empire, who's just a MacGuffin.
In which we're all saying, press the X button. Can we skip this cutscene?
Yeah. Fetch quest, thy name is Skywalker.
Is there a fast travel option?
No. So they begin there, look around, they go to, I saw someone refer to it as Burning Man. They go to Burning Man.
Oh my god, that's exactly what I called it!
I think that was Red Letter Media. I know they said that, though.
I'm not that far into it. Don't give that... Look, I didn't care if anyone spoiled Star Wars. Don't spoil the Red Letter Media review.
Okay, the real attraction.
In fairness, it's probably more engaging.
I in all honesty, I probably was looking forward to that review more than the actual film.
I kept what do you call it? Going
review.
I kept going to YouTube and clicking refresh. I kept refreshing it to see if they had dropped it yet.
So they go to this Burning Man thing. They encounter a snake that Rey heals with the Force because, as Benjamin has been wont to point out, the Force can do whatever the plot says it can do at any given point in time.
Kind of funny, actually, that the latest episode of The Mandalorian that dropped actually showed that technique. So when I went to go see the movie, it's I've seen that before. We saw another character do it, which I'm not spoiling because I know at least one person on this show here has said they're not going to start watching The Mandalorian yet.
Yeah, it's almost as if there's a plan, almost.
Boy, that sure would have been nice when all the other characters were dying in Star Wars. Just throwing it out there. They find a dagger that has Sith writing on it that C-3PO can read but not translate because the Senate banned it, and that's somehow still part of his programming despite multiple memory wipes.
He wasn't even an officially manufactured droid as well.
I know, right?
It was built by some kid in Tatooine.
Anakin made him in the backwoods of Tatooine, and no, I must be compliant with all Senate regulations.
Yeah, gotta make sure he can't speak Sith. This sure won't become ironic at some point in the future.
Well, maybe he got an upgrade when Anakin gave him to Padme.
They still wiped his memory after the events of Revenge of the Sith.
You can wipe a computer's memory and not their programming.
I don't know. I feel like that would have gone with it, but...
By the way, you forgot Lando.
No, I was getting to Lando.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the movie kind of did too.
Well, they encounter Lando Calrissian because of nostalgia, and they...
Cash that check, Billy D. Cash that check.
Hey, look, if they're going to pay you, cash the check. I don't blame him at all. That takes them to the ship of a character that they wind up having to use to escape the planet after Kylo and the Knights of Ren, who get 0 speaking lines, and just
they're basically the death metal walking club.
No. That's an insult to death metal.
They do look like a design you would see on a death metal album. They really do.
That is,
and all they do is walk around and look menacing.
That's all Boba Fett did. Look how it worked out for him.
Hey, he used his jetpack once, and he fired off a little grappling line thing, and he didn't do much, but he did something. Okay.
Yeah, they walked around and then.
Yeah, 5 lines of the whole trilogy, and one of them was ah.
Yeah, I maintain that Boba Fett's one of the worst things that has ever happened to Star Wars because it made them all focus on costume design instead of character work. Like, hey, this guy's absurdly popular. Who is he? He's nobody, but he looks cool. Anyway, they encounter those. Chewbacca gets captured. Rey blows up a ship with Force lightning that they think Chewbacca's in, but 2.5 minutes later, probably less if I were to clock it.
The very next fucking scene.
The very next scene. No, it was a different transport ship.
Okay, I actually was happy with that because, I'm sorry, we all knew Chewbacca was alive. They were not going to kill off one of the, fan favorite, longest running characters off screen. And I'm sorry, but I am grateful that they just said, "Oh fuck it, he's alive here."
Again, when it's my turn, I'll discuss that.
Fair enough. They head to the location presented in the. They overclock C-3PO they have to go to a place to overclock C-3PO.
I think it's more like jailbreak, but anyway.
Okay, they jailbreak C-3PO to get him to translate this. His memory gets wiped. They have to escape the Knights of Ren again. This time, though, they discover that Chewie's alive, so they rescue him. They get back on the Millennium Falcon. Rey discovers that she's Palpatine's granddaughter because suddenly Palpatine. Which I'm sure is what his wife said multiple times. She decides to go into exile on the same planet that Luke was, and Luke winds up showing up to say, no, I was wrong. Clearly everything in the previous movie was incorrect. Then as a Force ghost, he rescues a lightsaber from being destroyed, finally pulls the X-Wing out of the swamp, although it's just underwater this time. Further calling into question the ethics of a bunch of other Force ghosts deliberately not interacting with the world around them.
Oh, we'll get to that.
I am begging you to stop putting logic into this.
Nope, I'm not going to stop.
I mean, wait till you get to the review part. You're still in a goddamn plot synopsis.
I know.
Well, I think we've jumped a little bit ahead, though. We still have to do the whole, go to the Death Star thing first.
Yeah,
that was. I got those out of order.
You skipped the part where they go to Endor and they meet the group.
The forest moon of Endor.
No, that was not the forest moon. That was just Endor.
Oh, yeah, that was Endor proper.
Great, we don't even know how gravity works anymore. Okay.
Dude, this franchise has not understood gravity since... Look, George Lucas never understood gravity, despite the giant goiter weighing him down.
So, yeah.
They go to Endor, where they find the wreckage of the Death Star, and that dagger that they had, that conveniently enough, if you stand in just the right spot, will line up with, like, the Goonies being able to use a similar thing to find the entrance to One-Eyed Willie's cave.
Will you quit reading my mind? I said the exact same thing when she opened up the dagger.
Well, somebody saw the Goonies recently. Good for you, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have just, like, put in a line of dialogue about, like, hey, if the Emperor was keeping something important, he'd probably keep it in his throne room.
Yeah, because that's where it is. They meet a bunch of other stormtroopers who, like Finn, had thrown off the shackles of mind control, conditioning, and oppression, and are now fighting the good fight. They work on repairing the Millennium Falcon. Rey steals the thing to go to the thing because she doesn't want to wait and doesn't want to endanger people, and every pseudo-excuse for every quasi-angsty hero being stupid ever.
Hey, we can't let the plot slow down.
If you give the audience even 20 seconds to actually think about this, they'll realize how stupid it is. We can't let that happen. So she goes into the Emperor's throne room in the Death Star, finds the MacGuffin, sees a vision of herself as a Sith in a scene that somehow manages to be even dumber than the scene it's ripping off from Empire Strikes Back, which is a scene that absolutely derails that movie for a good 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, but I bet it would look really good in a trailer.
Yeah, but if you know the whole tests of the Jedi, you know that this is her trial, because every Jedi goes through this.
Okay, fair enough. Wait, every Jedi encounters themselves as a Sith at some point?
They talked about this in the Tartakovsky animated series, when they discussed the trials and promoting Anakin's Jedi Knight. There's a couple of different trials, like trial of skill, trial of the flesh, blah, blah, blah. And they discussed that one of them is called testing the spirit, facing the mirror. Basically, the Jedi is confronted with a vision that looks within them. And a lot of Jedi in training really don't like what they see. That is what happened when Luke went into the tree and he saw that vision of Vader. We see in the animated series Anakin's spirit trial. So yeah, that's what that was. This was a Jedi trial for Rey.
Okay, fair enough. As she leaves the chamber where the MacGuffin is, she encounters Kylo Ren again, because his story is the same as hers, just one chapter behind. He destroys the MacGuffin because the only way he wants her to find the Emperor is with him, so they can kill him together and then take the throne and rule as supremely as equals, and she rejects this. They fight some more. They fight a little bit more. Leia basically dies, but distracts him long enough for Rey to get the upper hand. Rey stabs him with his own lightsaber. Feels Leia's life end. Reaches out, heals Kylo. She takes off, still kind of shaken by everything. She steals Kylo's ship, flies it to Luke's planet where that all takes place. Kylo hangs out on Endor for a little bit, still battling with himself, and in the only scene in this entire movie that actually worked for me, recreates his last conversation with Han Solo that took place in The Force Awakens. This time, though, instead of igniting his lightsaber and violently murdering Harrison Ford, he turns and chucks it off into the waters of this body of water and throws off the oppressive mantle of the Sith and becomes Ben Solo once again, and thus ends his dialogue.
FYI, that is how you subvert expectations. I was expecting a Luke Skywalker Force Ghost. I got a Han Solo's Force Ghost instead.
Wasn't even a Force Ghost, really. It was just his
memory. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like the way that scene was set up, I was sort of okay. There's going to be Luke Force Ghost in the frame, and then the camera backs off. It's like, oh, Han Solo's there. I was not expecting that. And yeah, then they do like the Rocky talk thing, and yeah.
Well, I haven't rewatched the scene because I don't want to, but I'm trying to remember how much of that is taken like beat for beat from The Force Awakens, because I know a lot of it is.
About 50-50. There's a handful of things. The whole I'm being torn apart. I know what I need to do, but I don't know if I have the strength. Pretty much everything that Kylo says is almost exactly the same. Not the same for Han. He gets new dialogue. Okay.
And I will say this: I like that they made Han's last line be "I know."
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah,
so
that was a good part of the film.
I actually expected that in Force Awakens, his last line to be "I love you," and for Kylo to say "I know,"
and then stab him.
It's like poetry; it rhymes.
Yeah, so I've been told. Anyway, the Resistance gathers to mourn Leia and plan their assault. Rey is on that island with the Porgs because merchandise. And Luke shows up. They have a little powwow about what's next, about the importance of your bloodline. And in all seriousness, Luke's saying, there's stuff more important than blood. Might have carried weight if this movie hadn't gone out of their way to go, no, Rey's only special because she's related to Palpatine. But she discovers that...
Suck it, kid, at end of Last Jedi.
I am calling it right now. We are not discussing the pros and cons of The Last Jedi. Otherwise, we will never get off this show.
She discovers that Kylo's MacGuffin to take them to Microsoft Excel. I'm just going to call it the paperclip now. The paperclip is still in Kylo's ship, which survives despite her burning it. She heads out towards Microsoft Excel. The rebel fleet, such as it is, sees them. They send Lando and the Falcon out to rally whatever support they can.
You forgot about Luke's gift to Rey.
Oh yeah, Luke gives Rey Leia's lightsaber. So she can dual wield now. Yay, level up.
I think it's pretty clear that Leia was supposed to give that to Rey in the original draft of this movie.
Probably. That would make more sense, but... Anyway, such is life. They all converge on Microsoft Excel. Rey heads down into the bowels to square off with the Emperor, where the Emperor reveals that I want you to kill me, so then my spirit can possess you. Sort of. And this is how it's been done from all the Sith. We all live in each other. We are the Borg.
So it's like an M. Bison sort of thing.
That was the dumbest thing. Like, in all seriousness. No, all the Sith live in me. No, they don't. Otherwise, really, I am all the Sith. Well, Christopher Lee's in there a little bit pissed at you. Ben Solo shows up and beats down the Knights of Ren because he can. The fleet is engaged in Starfleet action. It's not going all that well, but then, hey, reinforcements show up because everybody showed up. Those poor people who showed up in freighters without weaponry, but hey, they're there.
Hey, come on, we got a cameo from Wedge Antilles. How freaking awesome was that?
Wedge was cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dennis Lawson, you rule, man. It was awesome seeing you in action again.
So anyway, they start turning the tide on the Emperor's fleet of Star Destroyers. The Emperor then realizes that Ben and Rey are a diode in the Force, and, if I might steal another line, suddenly turns into a Dementor, sucks that energy to reform himself, and becomes Super Palpatine, who throws Ben Solo off a cliff, but falling doesn't actually kill anyone. Incapacitates Rey, and then uses...
I think if one person would know that, it would be the Emperor.
I know, right?
Even though my boys agree with you on that one.
He then uses the power of Super Force Lightning to disable the entire Rebel fleet.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was awesome. Seeing that those giant lightning bolts just shoot up into the sky, that was cool.
I disagree, but okay. Rey regains herself, now hearing recorded voiceovers.
We haven't even gotten to the review yet, and this might be my favorite review of the year. This is going to be so bad.
Anyway, Rey hears encouraging speeches from Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, a little bit of Yoda. I'm sure Hayden Christensen was in there. Pretty sure Samuel L. Jackson said mother effer, but it got cut out.
No, it was, okay, we had Qui-Gon Jinn, we had Mace Windu, we had Yoda, we had Ahsoka from the Clone Wars series. We had Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Rebels series. I looked it up. I looked up every cameo appearance. They had Hayden Christensen. They even pulled in the line dub of Sir Alec Guinness that they used in Force Awakens.
So she hears all of this and...
Yep, they give her some nice positive feedback. You got this, Rey. You can do it. We believe in you.
She stands up. She confronts the Emperor, who is inevitable. I mean the Senate. I mean all of the Sith. And if I might continue that particular bad gag, she responds, I am Iron Man. I mean Tony Stark. I mean Captain Marvel, because I'm clearly that big a Mary Sue. No, wait, sorry, the Jedi. That's it. That's the franchise. I am all the Jedi. Because that's not awkward. She then reflects his lightning back at him. Despite being blasted by his own lightning, he decides, you know what, I'm just going to keep going with this. Dies, in theory, until the next movie when his disembodied head will be floating around causing mischief because this franchise doesn't know how to move on from anything.
Yeah, Star Wars, we're still out of ideas.
No, I believe I know what he's talking about. There's a script out there where they find Palpatine's disembodied head and they attach it to the body of Starscream. No, wait, that was something else. Sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going. This actually sounds like it could be good.
I don't. It's a bit from the Transformers series.
Yeah, because that's what we need. Palpatine with Charlie Adler's voice.
Could work. I mean, that's a tough battle. Which voice would you use? They're both kind of awesome.
That is a tough battle now that I think about it. Anyway, this exertion somehow causes Rey to die. That, in all seriousness,
this movie doesn't make any sense.
She never gets hit by the lightning. She never even really uses the power of the Force to combat him, despite this lightning being strong enough to disable entire Star Cruisers. Just a second lightsaber and we're good.
I think I'm going to steal from Terry Pratchett here and say because convention is stronger than any law of physics.
I was going to steal from Kevin Smith and say that's the problem with being a martyr. You have to die.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know if any of you have seen a movie called The FP. It's basically every sports film except it's done with like Dance Dance Revolution. It's like the main character's brother dies on the dance pad within the first 5 minutes of the movie to set up the revenge plot. No explanation is given whatsoever as for why he would die. There's like no like electric shock given to the loser or anything. It's just this is a sports movie, so this has to happen.
Fair enough.
It's a great film, by the way.
I'll look it up. Ben Solo shows back up, still without lines of dialogue. Crawls over, uses the last of his life force to bring Rey back to life. He then dies, and Rey decides not to return the favor.
Well, he basically pulls the whole evaporating into the ether thing. So I think
he does become one with the Force, but she doesn't even make the attempt. Like, she weeps over his corpse for a good 20 seconds before he does.
Oh no, you died. I'm so... Oh, there, you're gone. Whew.
Well,
also, apparently we want a romantic kiss now, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the moment that everyone on Twitter has been raging about. The kiss.
I can't imagine why, but
it's
okay.
On my list.
If only they had dubbed in Finn and Poe both going, oh, come on!
You don't need Poe for that. You just need Finn going, what the fuck?
The rebels throw a party, again, because this is what you do when you beat the Empire. Everyone across the galaxy simultaneously celebrates.
Ewok cameo.
Ewoks show up to remind people just in time for Christmas that Ewoks are a thing. Rey goes to Tatooine voluntarily, just further cementing how profoundly stupid she is. Buries the lightsabers of Luke and Leia. Luke and Leia look on as in the Force Ghost equivalent of American Gothic, further cementing all the incest jokes about the two of them. She then claims the last name of Skywalker because identity theft is hilarious.
I mean, if you're going to choose your last name, which one are you going with? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, the Hitler kids weren't too thrilled to keep that name.
If you could choose your own name, you don't have to choose. Then why would you choose Skywalker?
On a
Because
plus
that's
side,
the title of the movie.
On a plus side, we get our first official canon yellow lightsaber.
Ooh, yeah.
That's totally a double-sided saber that she just didn't ignite the second half of, by the way.
I just thought it looked kind of cool that it looked like she sort of transformed her old fighting staff that she used in the desert into the lightsaber, or at least used it as a design component. I thought that was cool.
Anyway, credits roll. I vomit. Other people cheered, and I wanted to hit them. Okay. Alexis, I'll start with you, because you said you enjoyed the movie, so what are your big takeaways, good, bad, or otherwise?
I will acknowledge that this is not a perfect movie. There are flaws.
Sorry, I forgot to mute my mic there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, are you clearing your throat or are you laughing at me?
No, for those, so I didn't mention this at the top of the show, I'm a little bit sick, so if you hear me cough on occasion, I just didn't get to mute my mic in time.
I know. I was just making sure you weren't being an ass. Okay. The biggest problem I do have with this movie is that it is abundantly clear that there was not a concise plan written from the beginning. J.J. Abrams did what I think was a good job with Force Awakens. That's actually one of my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies. And then Rian Johnson took over, and he took the story in his own way with The Last Jedi. Again, we're not here to debate the pros and cons of that movie. The internet has already done it ad nauseum.
You can find our review of it in the archives if you're curious about our thoughts.
But it's clear that when J.J. Abrams came back to take over, he had a plan with Force Awakens that Rian Johnson didn't follow, and J.J. Abrams didn't want to continue with what Rian Johnson wanted. He wanted to go back to his own plan. It's abundantly clear since you can see that on Planet Paperclip, as we're now calling it, you could see clones of Snoke. And that you see that, and it's pretty clear that Abrams had a really big plan for revealing Palpatine. It was not going to be this whole "the dead speak." He wanted to build this up, and I think that this movie really does suffer from the plot getting thrown around like hot potato. I really wish that either J.J. Abrams had stuck around for all 3 movies, so we could have had a clear vision. I mean, say what you will about the Marvel movies, but the fact that we had the Russos stay on for most of the big ones really helped cement a concise storyline and plot points. And I really wish they had done that, or given the plot points to Rian Johnson and said, okay, you can do what you want, but we need you to keep these core points. And if they did, he threw it out the window. But I will say that this film did really feel like a Star Wars film. I greatly enjoyed it, despite the Deus Ex Machina. Okay, what do you call... Okay, I don't think you can call this a Deus Ex Machina, but what do you call the whole "a wizard did it" when it's that early in the movie? A Deus Ex Machina wraps up the plot point, but when it starts the plot point, there's got to be another term for that.
I think
it's still a Deus... Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to invent the term Palpatine Ex Machina.
It's still a Deus Ex Machina. A Deus Ex Machina is, it literally translates to the ghost in the machine. It's just when the plot moves of its own accord rather than through anything actually set up. It's not always at the end of a movie. It can be anywhere within a story. Okay,
because not gonna lie, I would love to have seen the in-between movie that J.J. Abrams had in mind. I really wish we could have seen how he would have set up Palpatine with Snoke and the Star Destroyers. I do think he had a plan, but he didn't get to implement it because he didn't get to do the second movie. Now then, I still did enjoy this film. The action pieces were great. I adored the fight scene on Endor. I know we've seen a lot of it in the trailers. That's what they've been using the most. Side note, whoever decided in the advertising department to put the Duel of Fates over the TV spot of that fight scene, you rock. The actors were all good. Again, what they were able to do with Carrie Fisher, I was very impressed. I really am hoping that we will get maybe like even just an interview where they discuss what the original plan was with Leia. Because again, you know, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. You were amazing, but I would have liked to have known what they were originally going to do with her. It's clear that she was supposed to be training Rey. I love that Rey actually calls Leia Master. It's like, oh my God, Leia is the Jedi teacher now. How freaking awesome is that?
That's the Q jump, I suppose.
Well, I mean, Luke dropped the ball so much.
I did love the big battle scene with all the other fighters coming out of nowhere. I thought that was a really cool touch. Again, it was a cool seeing Dennis Lawson show up. I loved hearing all the past Jedi and the fact that they got those actors back to do that line for Rey. I thought that was great. You know, I know that there's a lot of fans over there who are jumping for joy that Ahsoka got her, she technically got her cameo in an official Star Wars movie. The movie has flaws, but I really did enjoy it. You know, I just wish that we could have gotten a concise plot throughout everything. And I really feel that a lot of the flaws of this movie are not through, you know, too much meddling or, you know, not hold too many cooks in one kitchen or anything. It is from J.J. Abrams saying, okay, I want to go back to the story I had in mind, so I am going to have to pull a lot of shit out of my ass here to cover up what Rian Johnson did.
For the record, I am adding J.J. Abrams to the list of directors who are not really directors, but stage managers.
I don't think that's fair. You want to call him a garbage writer? Sure, he is. But he can direct. He is. If you look at, and I'm in the interest of being fair to these guys, Red Letter Media actually reminded me of this. But you look at the Star Trek movies that he's done. You look at this.
Oh, I did watch those. I didn't care for them.
Let me make my point. There's a difference between the story is garbage and it's amazing to look at. There's the ability, you know, the direction isn't just the ability to tell a story. It's, you know, it's getting the images on screen to resonate with people, which I think he does exceedingly well. He also, I think, is able to, and he's been blessed to have worked with very talented actors, both in Star Trek and in the Star Wars movies. But I think that there is a level of him able to get outstanding performances out of these actors. The trouble with the trouble with this and the trouble with Star Wars is it's entirely hampered by garbage storytelling. But so I think calling him a bad director is beyond the pale. I think that's mischaracterizing him. I think he keeps being set when he writes the stories. I think it's obvious he's terrible at it. But when he just is able to direct, I think that shows his strength.
Yeah, I rate him as he's a solid director. I'd say, like, you know, his direction skills are good, they're solid, but I wouldn't say he's a visionary or revolutionary director. But he's solid. He gets the job done. He does it well. I wouldn't say that I.
Go ahead. I would say at least we've moved on past the lens flare jokes.
Well, I think he creates gorgeous visuals. You know, the one thing that I will agree with Alexis on is the lightsaber fight on Endor. I think all facets of creating that scene are probably the best parts of the movie and are exceptional. I think the visuals are exceptional. I think the choreography is, the acting from both actors. It's like this one little circle in the entire movie where I forgot what a giant pile of trash this was.
I'll disagree with you on the choreography, and I'd bet you $20 that entire thing was shot by the B team.
Maybe, but the whole thing is I don't want to get into bashing JJ's direction when that's not the problem with the film.
It's part of the problem with the film.
Alexis, go ahead. Oh, sorry, you were responding to, I guess, Alexis before we jumped into this whole other thing.
Well, I disagree. Briefly, I disagree with you on the choreography thing. I don't know what it is about Daisy Ridley swinging a lightsaber, but I don't buy that. Like, whenever she uses the staff, like, she clearly knows what she's doing. Using the one-handed saber, I struggle with her believability, in all honesty.
Okay.
Just very briefly before I throw it to David, I did want to praise Adam Driver for half a second. He's able to do a really good job with just his physical acting after he tosses his lightsaber away. Because he doesn't... I'm not joking. I don't think he has a single line of dialogue after that scene with Han Solo. I do not believe he gets a single line. Everything he has to do is physical. And it is abundantly apparent that he is a very different character. So his ability to differentiate those two parts of that character's personality, the entire second half having to be done absent the ability to speak, is a really impressive thing.
Yeah, Adam Driver's probably the best gives the best performance in this entire trilogy by far.
Adam Driver's a great actor. I saw him in a few things before this, and I was thrilled when he got cast. He's in a movie on Netflix with Scarlett Johansson. I haven't had a chance to see it, but from what I've heard, he is stellar.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but praise for Marriage Story.
Yeah, I want to see a lot more of him. I really think he is one of the best new upcoming actors that we've seen in a while.
I'm still sad I couldn't find a showing of that zombie comedy he was in with Bill Murray, directed by Jim Jarmusch.
The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah, it didn't show around me, and I was so sad because I wanted to see that.
Oh, I was also going to add, nice touch with the Kylo Ren helmet. They actually, you guys have probably read this before. There's an old, I can't remember if it's Japanese or Chinese, but there's an art of repairing broken pottery by lining the pieces with gold and then sticking them back together. And Abrams actually admitted that was kind of what he was going for with Kylo Ren's repaired helmet. And I thought that was a really interesting touch. So, kind of like that.
Plus, hey, now you have to have two different action figures. They have different helmets. Anyway, David, I was going to throw it over to you. So, what were your thoughts on this?
Pretty close to Alexis for the most part. I think J.J. Abrams did a great job sort of capturing the feel of a classic Star Wars film. And yeah, they just keep the pace of the film so fast that you never really quite have time to really think about how ridiculous it all is. I think Mark was saying before about how this is more of a theme park ride than like an actual film, and it kind of has that feeling. Just there's no chance to catch your breath, to really think things over, get into the moment. It's just on to the next scene over and over and over again, and that also probably relates to just how much material they had to throw into this, just because they didn't have a previous movie to set all of this up. It was very much J.J. Abrams trying to get back to his original plan whilst also addressing the open threads from the previous film and any criticisms from it, and just trying to make it all come together. So in the end, I think it's Andrew and I were talking about sort of the Last Jedi and sort of how Like, it's got a lot of like really good moments and scenes in it, but if you just kind of back away from that, it's it's not the sum of its parts. And I think this movie is kind of same, but just in the parts are a bit different and a lot more Star Warsy. Like I couldn't quite figure out why we had these ancient Star Destroyers, yet they seem to have more advanced weapons on them than anything else. Like, one destroyer can just blow up a planet. Just sort of where did that come from? I know, like, in the original expanded universe, Palpatine did have his own personal Star Destroyer called the Eclipse, which had, like, a single Death Star cannon on it. So whilst it couldn't blow up a planet, it could mess one up pretty good, and I was always thinking that would be an interesting thing to incorporate into the Disney universe as a sort of a potential, like, maybe he hid it away, and, if the bad guys get it, then they can use that to enforce their power. As much as I think we're all sick and tired of super weapons by this point. They never really seem to establish why Kylo Ren was helping the Emperor. Like, I think they even had the one officer in the meeting. He's like, so what is the Emperor asking for in exchange for all this? And Kylo Ren just throws him against the roof. It's like, the writers don't even know. Stop asking questions.
No, but it was kind of cool to see just some angry force throwing around. Let's face it, we love seeing lackeys get shoved around with mental powers.
Yeah, and no one was better at it than Hux. That guy could really slide along a floor.
Side note, wow, Richard E. Grant gave the most subtle performance of his life.
Yeah, I'm the spy.
As though every bit of the camera framing didn't just make that patently obvious to begin with.
Yeah, the moment where he's like, I'm going to stay here and watch this. I'm like, he's the spy.
No.
Yeah.
The first time they say the first time they toss that guy's head onto the counter and go, we have a spy in our midst. Look what it cuts to. Like, it's so blatantly obvious.
Yeah, but it's also, I do kind of like the twist. Well, we're not even going to call it a twist because it's so painfully obvious. But there is something to be said that Hux, while loyal to the First Order, just despises Kylo Ren so much.
It's a politics thing. He wants to make Kylo Ren look bad so he'll look better, and he's willing to go behind everyone's back to help the Resistance out.
Oh, so this is a nice little bit of espionage plot thread that could have played out throughout the rest of the movie, right? Nope.
I mean, I do like it when... Is it like Admiral Pride or something like that? Is the guy that
did
it?
That's Richard E. Grant. That was because he has a tendency to just be the biggest scenery chewer since Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Like I thought he did a good job, but again, just like the moment where the moment Hux comes in and says like, "Oh, they got away, but they wounded me. I tried to stop them." He just goes, "Okay," just grabs like the gun from the nearest stormtrooper, shoots him, says, tell Kylo Ren that we found the spy." It's like, I just like competence in my characters, okay? It's like I know what kind of movie I'm in. I know how this story works.
Again, I thought that was a good scene, even though I wish we could have seen more of Hux. He was a good character. He really was.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he did better than Captain Phasma. She's up there in like Star Wars heaven, sharing a drink with Boba Fett.
There is no heaven for people in Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars Afterlife, whatever it is, where the people who aren't Jedi go.
Yeah, she gets to live on as Brienne of Tarth, probably the best character in all of Game of Thrones.
Quite possibly. I'm not going to object to that. I kind of thought it was a bit weak, sort of having Palpatine with all those, whatever they were in his lair. Like where did all these people come from?
Yeah, did he reanimate all the skulls that were in the wall, or
like did he like make a ton of clones just to like cheer him on or something, or are these all like ghosts of the Sith, or I mean, like,
is it the Sith cult? Like people who aren't Sith but worship the Sith?
I mean, that could work because like someone's got to be building these Star Destroyers and all this stuff. Like it seems like he had cloning facilities to like man everything, but yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where like I just like to kind of know. Where did all these people come from, and what are they doing now? Like, oh no, they killed Palpatine. I guess we're not going to do anything anymore.
People listening to this review is like, Radulich doesn't say a lot in this one. Just listening to you guys talk. Well, it seems like this was happening. I think that it looked like my interpretation of.
I'm almost there, Mark. You'll get your say.
No, I know, but I'm actually enjoying listening to you guys talk about this and using words like "I think" and "that might have been." and it looked like
yeah, I could just hear you chambering the rounds each time we say one. Yeah,
hey,
I'm making the motion with my hands right now. Just
a visual film experience, and there's 3 adult, rather intelligent people all going, well, I think there was a thing in there, and there was that, and, well, where did that...
The one thing we weren't thinking about, people watching our movie and paying attention to what we were showing them. How dare they?
So yeah,
if there's one group of potential viewers that the people making Star Wars clearly do not care about, it's those that pay attention.
So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, David, but yeah, I have. You guys have to know I'm sitting here in just trying to stifle laughter at this point.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying this. I'm looking forward to what you have to say. I've only got 3 more points here anyway. But speaking of Force Ghosts, I was really kind of expecting to see some in that last fight when Rey does her whole "I am the last of the Jedi" and her whole "be with me" thing. Instead, we just get a bunch of ADR lines. I was kind of hoping, camera backs up and, hey, Force Ghosts of everyone there, and then Palpatine freaks out. But I'm just, wishing what I would have wanted to see.
But then they would have taken the focus off of Rey for half a second.
Well, she can still be in the front. They don't actually have to do anything. They just have to stand there. And
Nope. Can't take the focus off of her in any way, even tangentially.
I agree with David. It would have been really cool, even if it was just basic CGI motion capture, to see all of those Jedi. I mean, again, we got some great fan service with Jedi from the TV series doing voiceover appearances. Actually seeing them in the background, probably would have had the fans just lose their collective minds.
Yeah, why do you two hate women so much that you would say that Rey has to be backed up by all these men?
I didn't specify any gender. You're the one who's assuming genders here, Mark.
Oh, you're right. I take it all back.
Yeah. But anyway, like they set up this whole "be with me" thing at the start of the movie, and I know how this works because I've seen a movie before. So it's like, okay, so this is something like next level Force stuff that she's trying to learn and she's struggling to master. So you imagine that once she figures this thing out, it's going to be a big deal, and it's just a pep talk. It's like you got this, Rey. You can do it. We believe in you. It's like, okay, I mean that's nice, but I'm not exactly sure how this powers her up. Whereas if we had some sort of visual representation in this visual medium of what's going on, like, holy smoke, she just Force Ghost summoned all the Jedi in the past, and they're now channeling all their powers together to fight Palpatine. Okay, that makes sense now. Instead, so if Mace Windu had 2 lightsabers instead of the 1, back when he was doing the Force lightning reflect thing in episode 2 or 3, sorry, he would have just been able to disintegrate Palpatine, and we would have just gotten over all of this. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's kind of all the picky stuff I have to say about this particular movie. But I think overall, kind of looking at the sequel trilogy, I really didn't get it that Disney sort of had a big picture plan for what was happening to Star Wars, as in what happened after the original trilogy. Because I remember back when I was a kid watching Jedi, what's going to happen next after this? How are they going to rebuild the New Republic? What's the new Jedi Order going to look like? What happens next to this universe? And
turns out all it does is recycle those 3 movies again.
Exactly, and that's my biggest issue is there's nothing in these films, as much as people like to talk about subverting our expectations, that hasn't been shown already before in the previous movies. It's just, Empire and Rebels, just we've changed the names. There's still, bad space wizard who wears black with a red laser sword, and good space wizard that wears white with a blue laser sword. I guess Luke kind of did switch to wearing black at the end. Family tradition. They should have seen that coming, but I digress. But yeah, and it's just they needed to kind of say okay, what's this new thing going to be? Say what you will about the prequels, Lucas created a different take on that universe during that time. It was definitely its own time period with its own dynamic, and that made it interesting. Whereas this is just all very safe. Let's just, remake the originals and not stray too far from that. You even saw that in The Last Jedi. This is my one thing I'm going to say about The Last Jedi, Alexis, don't worry. Is when Kylo Ren sort of says, we don't have to do this anymore. We can let the past die. We can do our own thing. And it's oh wow, they're going in a new direction here. It's and then it's and join me, and together we shall rule the galaxy on the dark side. It's okay, and here we go again. I mean, I almost think that during Palpatine's monologue at the end of this film, he was just going senile and thinking he was back in the throne room in Jedi. It's like, I'm afraid your friends won't last. They won't be able to save you, or it's all the same stuff from the last film. There's nothing different or a new direction that the franchise is being taken in, with one notable exception, and that's all the stuff they've done outside of the sequel trilogy. Like, Solo really expanded upon, the scummy, smuggler crime side of things. The Mandalorians fleshing out the bounty hunter things, and I just find like this is where the actual interesting stuff is being done with the franchise, where they're sort of taking this universe and fleshing it out and going into new areas. And I find that to be a lot more interesting and compelling than just, Jedi, Sith, super weapons, same old.
I think we can agree on this, though. If they're going to continue to expand, make new movies, more series and whatnot, while we have no problem with that, Lucasfilm, for the love of all that is good, holy, and covered in chocolate, stop listening to the fans.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they should just go and just make Disney Plus series of all sorts of different ideas and just see what works and what doesn't, and then maybe after you've done that research, then maybe take a crack at maybe doing another big movie. I have spoken.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you earlier, but I'm sorry. Everyone who reviewed this thing saying, "Oh, it's too pandering," after they said the first movie was too similar and the second movie was too different. I just wanted to bang their heads together like coconuts.
At least be consistent if that's going to be your complaint. My complaint about The Force Awakens was that it was a functional remake of A New Hope, because I believe that to be accurate. My issues with The Last Jedi were significantly less. If I had to pick a favorite, it's probably that one. I liked a lot of the stuff that they did there. And my issues with this one are numerous. Speaking of numerous issues with this one, Mark, you are locked, loaded, and ready to rock. Open fire. We're all ducking and covering.
I'm grabbing Eddie and jumping in the foxhole.
I've had a lot of time to think about this movie and think about the reactions and the counter reactions, and this is enough to make me not want to do movie review podcasts anymore. It's so bad. Not just the movie, just everything around it. I find myself going back to The Last Jedi and just thinking about Kylo Ren. You guys brought it up, but it bears repeating. Just let the past die, bury it. And I'm like, and I remember going into Rise of Skywalker, and I put this joke on Facebook, like Jyn Erso said, let's just get this over with. I was looking forward to going with my friend. I wasn't looking forward to the movie, and when it was over, I looked at him and I said, thank God Lucasfilm and Bob Iger have made the decision that Star Wars will live on in Disney Plus series for the foreseeable future, because this isn't working out on film. And they need a hard reset, like a Batman and Robin to Batman Begins break before they go back to film again, if they go back to film at all. 3 cheers for Bob Iger and the post Kathleen Kennedy Lucasfilm. I'm right with you. You listen to Damn You Hollywood, and you get Robert, who can be very critical, and Radulich, who can be very forgiving. I usually will couch things in the argument of, well, you're going into this movie is this, and this, and therefore you have to forgive it for these transgressions. And that's like the meat of any argument between me and Robert, where there's this hard line objective criteria, and then there's me going, well, this movie lives in this one particular space, so none of that stuff really matters. And we kind of go back and forth and hash that out. And to Robert's credit, he can be more forgiving when he wants to be about that sort of thing. So, and I bring that up to say this: when you fucking lose me, you've when I can't forgive what you've done in this movie, you fucked up bad. And I really tried, because I don't know, I forget how long it takes to get to this scene, but I was with the movie in its rapid fire Batman v Superman editing style. I mean, it's almost as bad as that. It's within shades of how Batman v Superman was in terms of editing scenes, not giving anything any time to breathe, and it's just boom, 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 cut, 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 cut.
Also, to your point, when a movie that is deliberately balls to the wall action like Mad Max Fury Road can give scenes time to breathe, you have no excuse for a movie like this.
Like, look, I'm going to get to this a little bit later and flesh this thought out, but when you basically have no second chapter to rely on, and you're having to invent an entire second chapter, whole cloth, and then do your third chapter, and you've got 2 hours, 20 minutes to do it in, I'm going to try and keep that in mind as I watch this film. So I'm already like in a forgiving mood watching this thing, which makes when it goes south so bad. So again, you have this rapid fire cutting, which I was okay with. And, you know, this idea of the Emperor has been behind everything all along. He's really responsible for the First Order. He's responsible for Snoke, which was a Trojan horse to bring Ben Solo over. I was actually okay with all of that. I'm like, fine, it's whatever, the Emperor did it. Okay, great. Now we have the setup here. There's a mole, we've got that, and, you know, it's a race to get to Palpatine first before shit really hits the fan. Great, we've got our movie. And so it gets going, and we're going, and I'm okay, and I'm actually starting to, like, relax and enjoy it. I'm like, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then they have this really great scene, this really, really cool thing, because they set this up where Rey is gotten as far as she's going to get with her training, and when she's trying to get it to that next level, to, you know, to access previous Jedis for further knowledge, whatever, she can't do it. That's that bit where she's, you know, what was the phrase again that she kept repeating on the
Be with me.
Be with me. So she's going, be with me, and she's trying to do that, and it's not happening for her. So that's the setup for what comes next. And then you have, you know, all the one thing that they were still drawing upon from The Last Jedi, her relationship with Ben, Kylo Ren. So you have all of that set up. And it all culminates in this scene on, you guys refer to it as Burning Man, which I think is hilarious. They kidnap Chewbacca, the First Resistance, and he goes up in the ship. And she uses this enormous force power in a really cool thing. Like, as much as people are like, Mary Sue, I don't give a shit about any of that. She is able to use the Force, and she grabs the ship. I'm like, like, an actually jarring moment for me. Like, oh my god, like, how powerful is she? And she's holding it.
Only about half as powerful as actual Star Killer who force landed a Star Destroyer onto a planet.
So she's able to do that. I'm like, that's really cool, and that's jarring, and you've got my attention. And then Ben comes over, and he's pushing it, and she's pulling, and she's pushing it, and she lets out this guttural Charlotte Flair, Yah! And shoots it with Force lightning, and blows it up. And I'm like, and I don't care that you see Chewbacca in the trailer and all of that other stuff. In the moment created by the filmmakers, they had me. They got me right there. I was like, holy, like my hand went to mouth. I was like, holy shit. Like that whole sequence of events, I was like, wow, you really got me. Here's the problem. And that's why I'm going into such detail about this, because it sums up the whole movie. Within minutes, the next scene, everything they just did completely undercut. Chewbacca's fucking alive.
Just as a side note, wouldn't it be great to see like a scene with Chewbacca and Kylo Ren? Like, seriously, Ben, what the hell?
I was really hoping that like when they got him in, like, okay, take him to containment. I wanted Kylo to go over there and like, oh hey, Uncle Chewie. Yeah. You know, I wanted some kind of interaction between them.
So,
I mean, Chewie would try to rip his arms off for killing Han, but
so for people like, you could
at least do something with Chewie being conflicted, because on the one hand, yeah, you murdered the guy I had a life debt with. On the other, I probably held you as a baby. So, you know, like,
he probably babysat him.
Yeah, like I don't say Uncle Chewie lightly. That's probably what he was, and we could have done something with that.
Right. They could have done something with a lot of things, but they don't, and that's why this is garbage. And that's the point. You know, you can sit here and you can say, I had a great time with this, and cool. I'm not going to shit on anyone's good time. You're entitled to have a good time watching any nonsense, good or other, objectively good or otherwise. You know, we're all entitled to have our own kind of fun. That being said, this movie has some objective quality problems, and this is just one of those things. You can't create this, this great ball of tension and kill a beloved character and bring him back 2 minutes later. And it signified that the people making this movie has absolutely zero balls. None. Just, they did not want to take any chances. I mean, say what you will about the first two movies. You know, one where they're like, hey, soft reboot, we got to build up a new audience here. Second one, we're trying some different things. Third one, and I swear to God, every review that used some version of this phrase, 100% agree with, they fucking gave up. They're just like, we don't want to make anyone upset. We don't want to piss people off. So we don't want to, kill a beloved character. We don't want to create situations where people might have a negative emotion. We just want, here's as much candy as you want. Hope this makes you happy. And I could not get into the rest of the movie. Like, I was gone at that point. I kind of just looked over at my buddy. I was like, well, let's get to the end of this then. Then you have, just going forward a little bit, because again, as much as that caused me to raise my eyebrow and was like, ugh, this movie and its inability to commit to anything. Go ahead.
They do the same thing with C-3PO. Like, hey, he's going to have his memory wiped in order for, like, he's going to make the sacrifice of who he is as a person, to the extent that he's a person, so that they can save everyone. And he will make this heroic sacrifice. Nah, R2-D2's clearly got a backup of him.
But again, they keep repeating this thing. The bounty hunter that they meet, what's her face? Carrie, what's her name?
Russell.
Yeah, Carrie Russell's character.
Look, the Power Ranger.
She, they meet her, they introduce her. She's all crazy negative, and then within a scene, everything's forgiven, everything's fine. She, there's no harboring of any anger towards Poe or anything like that. It's just resolved, and we're moving on to something else.
Anybody else kind of sad that when they mentioned Poe was a spice smuggler, his response to them being incredulous wasn't the spice must flow?
Well, we'll get that in November.
I would have screamed at the screen if he had said that.
I mean, it just had to say it at one point because it would have been funny.
So, I mean, there are other, like I said, there are other visually interesting things that they do. The bit where she's in his Kylo Ren's quarters, Rey is, and they have their Force connection thing again, and they have their Force connection fight, and she hits the stand that has the Vader mask on. That all looked pretty cool. But again, that's also a big theme of this, where things look cool, but connected to any sense of story, they don't either make sense, or they're just there for the sake of being visually spectacular, and they don't serve any narrative purpose. There's a lot of that in this film.
It's supremely, and I'm pretty sure this is genuine irony, given that George Lucas had a famous quote about the first Star Wars movie. When people, because he invented a bunch of special effects so he could tell that story. And when people asked him about the quality of the effects work, his response was a special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing.
Yup.
And here we are in 2019, and that sentiment is still correct.
So then you have the big reveal, oh, she's a Palpatine, which again, the narrative that within you is all of this anger, and this is why the not killing Chewie thing really bugged me. The narrative that you come from this really dark place, your bloodline is of the ultimate evil, and you just accidentally, because you can't keep your anger under control, killed a beloved friend. And now she's like, oh my god, that's what this power is capable of. That's what I'm capable of. I don't want to see this through anymore. And then decide to go into hiding. I'm sorry, that follows. Hang on, let me get there. Let me put a pause on that. When they get to Endor and she has the fight with Kylo Ren, and she fucking runs him through. After possibly accidentally killing Chewie, She runs Kylo Ren through, and she's just like, you know what? I am struggling with this power, and I don't want to be where this power is seemingly taking me. I think is an interesting story. It's so poorly executed because it's rushed in this movie. We get that's a story point that you need another movie to flesh out and bring her back. They do it in 3 scenes. The bit with Luke, and even my friend who's like, we have been sort of on opposite parts of the fence on the Star Wars movies. I loved Revenge of the Sith. He didn't. I loved Last Jedi. He didn't. Thought this was a giant pile of trash. He thought this was fantastic and a great way to send the series off. But we both like cracked up laughing when she throws the lightsaber into the fire. Luke, the Force Ghost, catches it, and the first words out of his fucking mouth are, "That's no way to treat a lightsaber."
And then he just looks out of the screen and says, "Ryan Johnson."
It's like, you chucked it off a cliff.
I know.
I
Alexis,
laughed so hard at that.
I know Alexis talked about for people who are complaining about pandering, you just want to punch them. But come on, at this point they were openly pandering to the fans. Like, this became less a movie and more a meta statement about about Star Wars fandom versus the studio. And I fucking hated it. I was so mad at that point. I tend to treat a lot of things with humor that are negative. So whether I'm something that's angering me or making me sad, I tend to be flip about. I'm fucking laughing my ass off at this point in the movie, trying to not upset people around me, but it was so beyond stupid and pandering. I couldn't take it anymore. The actual conversation that they have somewhat tracks. If Luke at the very end of The Last Jedi says, hey, I'm going to do my part to help out in the way that he does, which you can give or take. I don't want to get into I don't want to debate that part of it. But he at least, he does make the heroic sacrifice at the end of The Last Jedi, realizing maybe going into hiding for momentarily wanting to murder my nephew was probably the wrong choice.
We've all been there.
Yeah, who hasn't wanted to murder a family member, right? So
siblings are.
So, like, after the obvious pandering moment with the lightsaber, their actual conversation doesn't really bother me. I actually think it tracks well, and it's pretty well acted. It's also really forced and very quick, and again, something that needed to be drawn out and let breathe, give it some air. It just happens. It's like nearly kills Chewie, nearly kills Kylo Ren, decides, fuck it, I don't want to do it anymore. Pep talk from Luke, all right, I'm back in the game. So again, just poor pacing, poor fleshing out of story points. And then the ending, you can talk about it all you want, and you can describe what's happening, but it made no fucking sense. The whole bit with the Emperor, the puppet doll Emperor just kind of hanging out there on a hook. I told you to go get her. I didn't necessarily say kill her, but I told you to kill her. But I don't just want you to go get her, and then I want you to kill me, so that way all of me goes into you, and then you can be the Emperor. That was my entire plan all along, you see. Uh-huh.
His plan makes no sense.
No, none of it made it.
Have you talked to anyone about these overly elaborate plans he keeps on coming up with?
Like, you guys in the beginning of this were like, how do you build a Star Destroyer and keep it underwater? What about the rust? Who gives a shit? How is it that your whole entire plan rested on making sure Nutso with the red lightsaber went and got the girl, so that she could become the new Emperor? Like, wait, what? So, and then, as if everybody in the room is so utterly tired, in the writing room of this, so utterly tired, so utterly exhausted from this entire experience.
It was probably past their nap time.
Well, I mean, And it's a whole other podcast to talk about the monkeys fucking a football that developed this trilogy and the poor leadership under Kathleen Kennedy that got us to where we did. That is a whole other conversation. We may touch on it in the money. I haven't decided because I don't want this to be 10 hours. But congratulations, Lucasfilm. You've now become DC on film. Never mind all of that. These people, exhausted with the task of trying to figure out what they were going to do with the third chapter because they had no second chapter, when they were like, well, we got Rey, and we got the Emperor, what do we do? I don't know, have them talk for 20 minutes. And then at the end, he'll yell at her and shoot Force Lightning, and she'll yell back, and she'll deflect the Force Lightning, and he'll die. But for realsy this time, not for play.
In all seriousness, I don't know how they... there had to have been a bet between them. Be like, this character, his bit about I am the Senate has been memed into like non-existence. We have to come up with something that will equal the memery of I am the Senate. And I am all the Sith was what came out of that particular bet.
If you were doing commentary, like sports commentary over that ending, and you were describing it versus, say, the ending of Return of the Jedi, just the throne room scene. You can talk about the seduction of Luke Skywalker and the rejection and the torture and the betrayal of Darth Vader and his redemption when he saves Luke. If you were to do the same thing with that final scene, it's literally fucking Palpatine just yells at Rey, Rey yells back at him, Force lightning, deflection, disintegration, we're done. But that scene is interminably long. Like, when I describe it, it sounds like, it doesn't seem like it was very long at all. It's the entire third act of the movie. It goes on forever and nothing happens. And then my favorite part of this movie, the part that had me cracking up laughing the hardest, was, other than Rey's I am Iron Man bit, you have, earlier on in the movie, Finn, who has had this love at first sight stuff going on with Rey. It's what propels him through the entire Last Jedi. He's trying to go look for her. He's trying to save her from coming back to a doomed resistance. All of that till he gets distracted with his B-plot. And in this one, as they're about to...
Boy, what a plot that was.
And so...
I love that, just for the record, I still love that it failed. Like, hey, harebrained scheme. Yeah, sure, let's do that. No impact on anything. Fails utterly. It was great.
So... thinking he's going to die, says, I have something I have to tell you. I don't care what the internet is now saying he was really going to tell Rey, which is apparently I'm Force sensitive. Fuck you.
Hang on. That's not the internet. That's what J.J. Abrams said.
Yeah, fuck him too. What's inferred in that scene, and I dare anyone to debate me otherwise on it, is him wanting to tell Rey that he loved her. And it's never addressed again. It's never even brought up. It doesn't lead to anything.
Poe keeps needling him about it.
Okay, but does it actually go anywhere?
No. None of this movie goes anywhere.
Well, it's introduced. I mean, we're talking about... if everyone's like, what is the point here? The point is this movie is poorly written. And so there's just an ongoing thing of introducing a thing and doing nothing with it later. Or introducing a thing and immediately resolving it and moving on to something else. Neither one of these is great screenwriting technique. So they introduce what could have been interesting, especially given what happens at the end. So they kiss, right? There's all this sexual tension that got built up between Rey and Kylo Ren from the second movie, which is somewhat pulled the trigger on here. And they kiss, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, it's a good thing he dies shortly after this, because how does that work if she brings him now back to the Resistance? And again, I was almost begging for there to be something more with her, Kylo, and Finn, but it's just summarily dropped, and he's dead, and nothing ever gets said about it. But I did kind of laugh at the idea of, despite all of the sexual tension between them, they went ahead and pulled the trigger and she kissed him after he's been a murderous psychopath for 2 movies. I guess,
He's only a little broken. She did fix him.
I get it, man. I totally get it. Redemption is greater than murder. I got it. Movie speaks clear. So, Robert, you finally
I was just waiting for the part where Mark suddenly looks down and realizes he forgot to record all that.
No, I keep checking.
Good.
Still recording, everybody. that is saved for posterity. Robert, you finally have the movie where I can't fucking defend this. I can't defend this trilogy. I can't defend this studio. I'm at a point where I almost can't defend Disney. This is how far this fucking film pushed me. This is... How long is this? 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours and 22 minutes. $300 million spent on garbage that I feel like everybody involved with secretly just wanted to get it over with and let us never speak of the shortcut again. You happy, Robert? I fucking blame you for this.
Why would you blame me?
Because I feel like you went into your basement and you did deep incantations and you called upon dark forces and you prayed to the demon that you worship, Cthulhu, and you said, make Mark hate one of his beloved franchises just so I can rub his fucking face in it. I blame you for this. There's no way Lucasfilm under Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger could be this fucking incompetent to ruin an entire franchise, a beloved childhood franchise. This is the work of demons that you
just shows
summoned.
how much of a colossal dick that demon is that the franchise it chose to ruin was Star Wars and not the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
There was no. Those have to be beloved at some point in order to be destroyed.
That's another Faustian bargain with the devil that we'll discuss on a different day. But I
was just going to say, I don't think he would have actually gone to that extent to summon a demon unless you had forced him to review Cats.
No, I think Robert, after years of having to do this podcast, when he was like, there's only one way to get revenge on him, and that is curse a studio into ruining a beloved franchise so that he has to come on this day and admit it's all terrible and we should never talk about it again. Are you happy, Robert Winfree? You did this to me.
No. Look, much as I would love to claim even like the loosest bit of association with destroying something you love,
I feel like right now you're just like putting all your candles in a bag and shit. You're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like miming it as of doing an audio medium.
no, I am not. I do not have a circle. There's no elder sign upon my door. I do not have a portal to Relia. I have no direct line to Cthulhu. None of that is true. And that said, if I were to conjure a curse for you about something like this, did this one play out fairly similarly to how I would have liked it to? In theory, yes, but also in theory, I don't have to see the movie at all.
True.
Like, that would have been part of my bargain for this. Like, no, okay, you know what? No, I don't have to see it. I did not curse this movie in the literal sense. Well, in the metaphorical sense. I have literally cursed about it.
I'm just picturing you standing up at the end of, like, and you just stand up and give it the finger. Just don't move, finger, the entire length of the credits.
No, I didn't. Oh, there was a movie I did, though. One of the ones we reviewed this year, not a joke. They did something so stupid on screen. I said loud enough to disturb the people around me. I apologize. I said, "Oh, come on," and I flipped off the screen. I forget what movie it was, but there was one of them.
Do you have any major disagreements with that last 10 minutes? I just went tearing apart this movie.
No.
Perfect.
I don't. If you want to find some good stuff in here, you can probably find some good stuff. And this movie is entertaining, I think, in the way that 5-year-olds playing with action figures can be entertaining. You sit down and you watch the utter nonsense spew forth, but you can create a picture in your head to go along with said nonsense. You can kind of go with it. I maintain that's how they wrote this movie. They gave a bunch of toddlers, not toddlers, but 6 and 7-year-olds toys, said play Star Wars, recorded them, and then said that. That's what we're doing.
You ever listen to kids like playing out in the park, or at least when they used to play out in parks when that was still a thing, and and the kid goes, "Bang, you're dead," and then one kid goes, "Well, no, I had a force field." Okay, but I have a sword that kills your force field. All right, but and it just goes on and on like that, and then it literally becomes again like the Daffy Duck, Scarlet Pumpernickel, but then the dam broke. That's the creative process of the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It comes down to two kids going, well, my dad could beat up your dad. And one of them goes, yeah, well, you're adopted, so it's not your real dad. And then nerd rage. I did not enjoy pretty much, again, the one scene that worked for me was Kylo actually tossing away his lightsaber. That whole setup and execution I thought was really well done. I wasn't in love with any of the fight scenes. Again, something about Rey or I don't know if it's Rey or Daisy Ridley or both, just doesn't really work for me when she's doing the one-handed saber thing. I don't have a whole lot. I mean, I don't think apart from like that one scene, I mean the whole fight sequence between her and Kylo on Endor is well framed at least. And is readable, which is a step up from a lot of the other stuff in this movie.
And again, I want to be clear. Like, I get that there's people like, I want Star Wars to feel like Star Wars again. I get that people don't think critically about movies, that they go to be entertained. I get all that. I am that most of the time.
Yeah, like, but that is Mark's ethos.
But I didn't start a review podcast to be like, I like it, and be like, and then that's it. Like, this becomes about, and we say this almost every show, this becomes about, but what is the craft? What was this a well-made movie? It doesn't matter if I was entertained by it or not. I mean, it matters to a degree, but the point of the discussion that we're putting out there in the public is, objectively, did this meet the standard for a quality movie? And I think that's the aggravating thing about this, is that there's no reason for it to have been this bad. When we talked about the last night, it was bad. It was bad across the board. But I don't know. I guess that had every right to be. That should have also been better. But at least I think the crew working on that movie, like, you kind of knew what they were capable of, and I think they were trying for something and just missed it utterly and hit the umpire.
They didn't. No, there was no attempt made in The Last Night to do anything.
I think it's just a movie made from exhaustion and inertia.
That is the Transformers franchise after the first movie.
But I think that's, I guess what I'm saying is, I look at this and it's like, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they were like, we're going to do a new trilogy, and they really did storyboard the whole thing, and they had an outline and they had a plan. But you have to see the plan through. That's the difference between Kennedy and Feige. Is she was like, "Oh, you guys got this. You guys, I don't want to get involved anymore in the creative process. We're gonna have this person. Everyone had their assignments. I'm like, okay, you guys should be able to handle it, and never thought really critically about the narrative. Versus Karen Feige, who, yeah, he's in charge, and he has a plan and he had an outline, but he's also creatively the one who's guiding the ship. And there are other directors who have walked away from Marvel because they Joss Whedon will never direct another Marvel movie again.
Thank God.
Because of his experience with Age of Ultron, because there were too many, but you got to do this. Edgar Wright won't direct for Marvel and walked away from Ant-Man because there was too much, you got to do this. The Russo brothers were fine with it. Taika Waititi, to Robert's eternal chagrin, is fine with it.
Of course he's fine with it. He doesn't actually tell stories. He tells really, really bad jokes in the loose structure of a movie, and they don't care about the bad jokes that he tells.
So
They don't care about his supposed humor so long as he hits a handful of narrative beats. So he gets to insert mountains and mountains of just the most unfunny, hackneyed crap. But as long as plot point A, B, and C happens, he's fine.
So again, that's why I say this is more like DC on film, where it's like Zack Snyder create a DC universe on film, and like he had a vision, and I'm sure creatively he probably could have kept it afloat. It's just after one movie, the Warner Brothers had no more faith in him and just upended everything. Like either start a project from the beginning and see it through to the end, come what may, or don't. But DC on film and Lucasfilm both fucking just gave up halfway through, and this is what we got. And that, to my eternal frustration, is the biggest problem I have with the Rise of Skywalker. Anything else, Robert?
No, I don't have anything else.
I laid out a lot of steaming anger. So
Feel better?
No. And I wanted to go last because I wanted to give Alexis and David the opportunity to share what they thought without me before I dropped bombs on everything. But I wanted to give you guys a chance to respond. Do you think I'm off base? Is there something that you want to kind of say? I'll let you guys have the last word. I'll go to you first, David.
Well, it's kind of hard because there is no real objective thing to say about a film.
There was no defense other than I liked it.
Yeah, and what people like is what they like.
Yep.
Like, and for example, I heard Mike Stoklaus's review of The Martian, and he hated it. And every reason he gave for why he hated it is why I loved it.
Right.
It was like, oh, there's no schmaltz, there's no love story. It's like, fantastic. It's a movie about a guy stranded on Mars. I don't care about his love life.
Yeah, it's like,
I care about him not dying on Mars.
Why would there be it's a survival story. Why would there be a love story in there?
Exactly. So it's
the same complaint about Castaway. It really did need, on the island, he needed to have some kind of hallucination so that there could be a romance subplot.
I think he's lonely, that guy. But go on.
I'm lonely, and you don't see me projecting it into my reviews.
You're a fucking robot. Go on, David.
Yeah. So I get each person's takeaway from a film is what they take away from that film. Like unless you say, oh, this was never explained, or this was never addressed in the film, and there was an actual scene in the film addressing that. Then
we have yelled at critics about that exact thing.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, but I enjoyed the film while I was watching it, and I enjoyed it a bit afterwards, and even now I can't really hate it. It's got its flaws as we said, and I think it all just shows just kind of how it seems like it was a bit of a mess behind the scenes with this whole trilogy, which is very unfortunate, and the film had to pay the price, and I would just kind of give J.J. Abrams credit for making something no worse than this out of what he had to deal with.
Alexis, give you the last word, and then I'm gonna go right into the money.
Like I said before, I really do want to find out what Abrams had in mind between Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. I don't hate Last Jedi by any means. It does have a lot of flaws, but I did like it. There was a lot of, again, very much so what you guys were saying earlier, it is not the sum of its parts. And I really think that a lot of the flaws in this movie came from the fact that, as you put it, Mark, Kathleen Kennedy stepped back and said, okay, you guys got this. I do not have to follow up. And I hope that this is a sign to the future movies. If they want to keep making trilogies, if they want to keep continuing storylines like this, they need to have a better plan put in motion. And they need to actually have a bulletin board with some plot points saying, okay, you can do what you want, but you have to keep this going. And I apologize for the squeaks in the background.
All right, and I'm going to play the right theme music this time. Here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All righty. They spent upwards of about $300 million cutting and pasting this hostage letter to the fans. It's made, as of this recording, $376.2 million. This is the lowest grossing on an opening weekend Star Wars movie to date. It's bombing currently in China. We said comfortably all year that this was going to make $1 billion. I'm now starting to think that it might not.
It'll probably be top 10, but I'm a little bit with you as far as, the next week or so is going to be very, very telling because, I saw this on Twitter and I'm going to repeat it. If you're Rian Johnson, you got to make a Star Wars movie. You got to make what is critically the best movie of the entire franchise. Thumb your nose at the worst kind of fans in the world. Get thrown off, but then make a critically acclaimed genre movie while Star Wars goes on to have its worst opening in 20 years. Like, that guy just wins.
Rise of Skywalker obviously won the weekend. Duh. Jumanji got knocked 1-2. Frozen 2 got knocked 2-3. Cats, speaking of bombing, debuted at number 4. Oh, this poor fucking movie. My parents, who are pretty forgiving of most movies, like my mom, who's got zero, like in terms of movies, just zero critical thinking at all, critical analysis, loved Cats. Just thought it was the bee's knees. My dad, who's a pretty smart guy, I've actually compared him in a lot of ways to Robert, was like, this movie was confusing. This movie made no sense. I don't know what was happening, and that scene with the cockroaches was scary, and let's never talk of the shortcut again. Like, all right, thanks, Dad. Can't wait to show my daughter this thing. Knives Out dropped from 3 to 5. Bombshell opened in 1,400 more theaters this week than when it initially debuted. So it jumped from 19 to 6. And I enjoyed Bombshell more than I did Rise of the Skywalker. So just, enjoy that little nugget out there, people. For people who don't know what Bombshell is, it's about the Roger Ailes sex scandal takedown. Fantastic. Hope it wins lots of awards. Richard Jewell fell from 4 to... Richard Jewell.
For the record, Mark, you liked it more than this, but that was only by being of like 2 eye rolls.
Oh, there were a couple of eye rolls in there, but this movie was not made for me. I still enjoyed it though. Richard Jewell fell from 4 to 7. Queen and Slim 7 to 8. Ford versus Ferrari 6 to 9. Black Christmas 5 to 10. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood 8 to 11. Parasite jumped 1 space 13 to 12. Dark Waters fell from 9 to 13. A Hidden Life jumped because it's in 101 more theaters 36 to 14. Uncut Gems 14 to 15. 21 Bridges 10 to 16. Jojo Rabbit jumped 1 space and 18 to 17. And finally, we have Last Christmas, Playing with Fire, and finally, Midway. So Joker's out of the top 20 after 2 months.
Only took it how long?
Yeah, really.
I mean, hey, that's also made $1 billion plus. It's the most profitable movie of the year.
So no real surprises there. We were talking before the podcast started. I made the assertion that Cats was going to do better than it's doing, but I didn't realize that Cats was also not on Broadway anymore. So I'm going to have to adjust my thinking on that.
I would like to amend our bet from
–
last week. Hang on, no. Just hear me out.
You just don't want to do Bad Boys. Come on.
That is true, but hang on. How much has Cats made to date right now? Worldwide?
Worldwide. I got to find it on here. Hang on.
I would say, who wants to go see Cats? Just take military grade LSD and go to Petco.
Yeah.
6 million so far and change. Sorry.
Okay.
Worldwide, it's at 10 million. I take that back.
Okay. Here's the amended bet. This will be like a prop bet attached to that bet. Okay? If it doesn't hit, say, 20 million in the next 2 weeks, then you get to review Bad Boys, and I get to not want to kill myself.
But no one else is going to review it with me. I need somebody.
Yeah, sorry, I am not reviewing Bad Boys. I haven't seen the former two, and I am not the target audience.
I'll take the bet, but I gotta.
You don't have to take the bet, Mark.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so I'm just kind of laughing. It's like, wow, only made 10 million so far, so they've covered Taylor Swift's fee.
Not even. Like, they barely covered catering for that group, considering you have both James Corden and Rebel Wilson in it.
Ow! Low blow, dude.
So anyway,
Wouldn't bother them. None of the cats have genitals.
So Rise of
Yet
Skywalker.
they're grinding their hips in the air throughout the entire fucking movie.
So Rise of Skywalker currently sits at number 21 for the year between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Godzilla. So it's got a ways to climb to even get to the number 9 spot, which currently is Fast and the Furious Hobbs and Shaw at 758. Yeah, like I said, I'm conservatively estimating it becomes an abysmal failure for a Star Wars movie and doesn't crack the billion.
Boy, if this actually bombs, like, can you imagine if this doesn't even hit 600 million?
I think
in all seriousness.
No, I mean, look, but here's the thing, and this fits into the money thing. They've already thrown Kathleen Kennedy into the pool. She's done. She's just sitting in an office, and she's got her job because they don't want to fire a woman. That's the story.
They should fire her because she's terrible.
They should, but they won't because as soon as they do, Twitter will be like, Disney hates women. So,
but I'm willing to bet that within the next, I'm going to say 2 years, she will retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't publicly fire you if you agree, if you sign an ink that in 18 months you step down.
Right. So I would imagine the next thing that we hear about Kathleen Kennedy is that she's going to spend more time with her family, and then her and the broad that used to run Sony can go bowling together. Who also got unceremoniously dumped from her position and is just now a producer. But anyway,
considering the dumpster fire that she left behind at Sony, it was overdue.
Yeah. So that being said, Kevin Feige and some other woman, I can't remember what her name is, and Jon Favreau are now running Star Wars. And as I said before...
Wait, did you just go, some other woman, I can't remember what her name is, so yeah, Jon Favreau?
No, and Jon Favreau. There was an and in there.
Okay.
So Jon Favreau, not Kathleen Kennedy, and Kevin Feige, and the guy from Marvel are now running Star Wars, and I think they're just, like I said, taking a long break from film and just going to dump a bunch of stuff onto Disney Plus for the time being until all of this passes from memory. That's where we are.
Years, and for the love of all that's holy, do not reuse any of these characters from any of the characters that have appeared in the last 6 movies. Just none of them. If you're going to start over, use the world. We don't need the same characters.
I'm going to disagree.
Hey, Robert, you're going to love this. This just popped up on my Facebook feed. Kevin Smith has a cameo in Rise of Skywalker.
Good for him.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly, and only because of the experience I had this weekend. So they did their Star Wars stage show, and then they marked the characters past the audience or whatever, and it's just a mishmash of masked figures and Rey in the role of in the role of Disney princess. And my daughter, who has seen The Force Awakens and half of Rogue One, was yelling at.
Oh, you coward. You absolute coward.
No, wait a minute. I ran out of time. I did not show her the second half of the movie because it was like, and they all had tea when it was over. No, I just haven't had a chance yet.
You totally pulled a Marge Simpson and pulled out the last few pages of Joan of Arc's story.
Oh, fuck you.
And just ad-libbed Sir Lancelot came in and saved the day. and then just remarked that it was easier to digest the digital copy
I
than the
ran out of
VHS of Bambi.
It was a
Did
Thursday.
wait. Did we seriously just pull out 3 separate Simpsons references in this review?
Have you ever heard our Howdly Doodly review? That's Robert's all over with the Simpson references.
Well, duh. That just welcomes it.
Listen, it was a Thursday night. She had school the next day. We got as far into the movie as we could before I had to leave to go see Rise of Skywalker. I will show her the rest of the movie. I promise. I will.
Okay.
If she,
I was going to say the second half of Rogue One is the best part of the movie.
I'm just profoundly curious about what happens when she sees them all die.
I will record her reaction and I will send it to you. Okay.
I want to hear her reaction when she sees Vader killing everyone.
You know,
so
I'll tell you what. Both my kids have been begging me to do another commentary. I might restart the thing and just let them do commentary over Rogue One.
Can I join you?
Sure. Anyway, she saw Rey walking past her as they were marching everybody out, and she was yelling at her like she was a Disney princess. She was all excited. Rey nodded at her, and that's it. My daughter was like smitten like the rest of the day. She's like, Rey acknowledged me. After the amount of time and energy they put into Daisy Ridley's character, if Daisy Ridley hasn't come to the conclusion that Star Wars is a giant dumpster fire and she should run screaming from it as fast as possible, I can see them doing more with that character. The further adventures of Rey, whether it be animated or live action or whatever. But I don't think it's the last we've seen of that character in some form or fashion.
You are probably correct.
I know I am. All right. Anything else on the money? Or are we done with this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, the critics fucking hated this thing, so this next and last final segment here ought to be interesting. So here we go.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Ruben Peralta Regard of Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Apparently it's some Spanish publication. The movie can entertain from beginning to end as long as you adjust your expectations. Some scenes have good ideas, are visually impressive, and are kept alive by the wonderful interaction between Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver.
Okay, what he says by adjust your expectations is bring a frying pan, hit yourself in the head with it, and after a long enough period of time, you will find this movie deeply entertaining.
That just sounds like something general you could say about any film. It's entertaining as long as you adjust your expectations.
That's like being
yeah.
That's like being set up on a date with a guy that just got out of prison. Look, adjust your expectations, okay, and you'll have a fine, fun date.
I was going to say, now we have to have the discussion. Are there any movies that would not be improved by hitting yourself upside the head with a frying pan?
Yes.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy I don't think gets better if you can't understand what's happening.
The Godfather gets worse, Silence of the Lambs gets worse, No Country for Old Men gets worse, There Will Be Blood gets worse.
You say this with the sound of someone who has experience of trying to watch these movies after being hit upside the head with
This sounds like a YouTube show. Robert hits himself with a frying pan and then watches as an adult movie. And I don't mean like XXX. I mean like a movie. Never mind.
A movie made for adults.
I would say you would fly in and hit him in the head with a frying pan for a YouTube show.
Chris Knight of the National Post. No, we never wanted it to end. Oh, you've never met Robert Winfree. But if it had...
Hang on. You wanted this to end just as bad as I did.
No, we never wanted it to end. But if it had to, this is as good a way as any. No, just torching the reel and never releasing it a la New Mutants would have been a better way to end it.
Hey, didn't you hear? That's getting released.
Yes, it has the blessing of Marvel. Woo!
I still say with the amount of reshoots that thing went through, there is no way in hell it's ever going to be profitable.
No way at all.
Miles Surrey of The Ringer. J.J. Abrams' Episode 9 is so desperate to please fans that it ends up throwing any semblance of inter-film cohesion out of the window.
That is true.
I think it tried for inter-film cohesion where it could. But, like, what do you want? Do you want 3 hours of trying to explain everything from the past two films?
Let's see here. Lots of rotten reviews. Javier Ocaña of El Pais. These serials are allergic to risk because, in short, the intention is for the audience. The intention is for the audience to sit in known territory. You ain't kidding.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that one.
Yeah, they learned their lesson after Last Jedi.
They don't want the fan base does not want to be challenged. They don't want anything interesting. They don't want progression. They just want. Look, I think most of the fan base would be happier if the opening text crawl lasted another minute, and then there was no dialogue within the rest of the movie, and it was just pew pew roar.
What Star Wars fans want is Baby Yoda. We didn't know we wanted Baby Yoda until we got it.
You said it before I could. I had
Oh,
my phone
sorry.
down. I literally brought it back to make that joke.
All right, because we haven't had enough.
Look, no one actually wants Baby Yoda. That's why he's palling around with the Mandalorian.
I want Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda's awesome.
Yeah, he's cute, he's well behaved, he eats things, and he chokes anyone to death that messes with you.
So, not that we haven't had enough Simpson references for the night, but what we want is everything to be different but the same.
That's pretty much
Yeah,
the curse of any franchise.
No, that poor guy yelling at the kids after they do the focus group testing, and Ralph just turning it over to negative.
I mean, that really, seriously, someone just captured that scene and say reaction to the Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's fun. Garrett Green of Black Nerd Problems. It's fun and exciting, but also a bit overwhelming and muddled. Just a bit.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I was certainly not overwhelmed by this. I was not even whelmed.
Can you be just whelmed?
I don't know. I kind of think you have to, because you can be over and under. So wouldn't logically you be able to just be whelmed?
There's actually a line in the movie 10 Things I Hate About You where they ask, like, I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed? I think you can in Europe.
I know that there's actually an ability for, like, water elementals in 5th edition for Dungeons & Dragons that is just whelm.
Nerd. Og's Cruise of Rappler. All in all, we're just a brick in the wall. No, sorry. All in all, The Rise of Skywalker is more like the fall of the saga and everything it once stood for. It stood for fucking plush toy Ewok, you fuckface. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, can we seriously stop with the rose-colored glasses about what Star Wars ever meant? It never meant anything.
Yeah, it was George Lucas's fucking fever dream. Calm down.
And him working out his plethora of repressed sexual issues.
Yeah, it did. Woo-wee!
That's all it was. This notion that it was some grand declaration about the human condition or society at large. Like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't then, isn't now, never was. Stop it.
It's a basic hero's journey, something that we've seen 1,000 times over, placed in space, and with a studio that didn't have the foresight to keep the marketing rights.
Or the toy rights.
Merchandising.
Merchandising rights. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Merchandising.
I'm torn between this and keeping Eddie happy so he doesn't start barging at me again.
We put the picture's name on everything. Spaceballs, the breakfast cereal. Spaceballs, the toilet paper. Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
The kids
Kids
love it.
love this one.
Oh, sorry, Alexis. I'm not trying to step on you here.
Hey, look, Spaceballs is like the second or third best Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's at least the third.
First one is still Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. That is still the best Star Wars movie.
Mark Kermode of Observer UK.
The last name is accurate, sir.
Both Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver rise to the challenge of their roles, with the former increasingly commanding the screen, While the latter exhibits vulnerabilities beneath the cracked face mask, that's not the one I meant to read. Bob Mondello of NPR, top critic.
Oh, God, not NPR. Why? People, they only get money because you give it to them. Stop giving it to them.
It doesn't.
Give us the money. We need it.
It doesn't do anything new or terribly distinctive, but maybe it didn't have to. It just had to be good enough to stick the landing, and it does that.
I think it shakes a little bit there, but it doesn't fall over.
Like that's not that's like, okay, we didn't fall on our butt, but our feet are clearly way off base.
Linda Cook of Quad City Times. It will take you back, and the Force will go forward forever. This woman makes wine from member berries.
Like, how is that a sentence?
Yeah, that seemed pretty unspecific.
Oh, for the love of Christ. Perry Nemiroff of Collider Video, and at this time I'd like to remind everybody that Christian Harloff was not invited to Galaxy's Edge, which was not really a big deal, by the way.
Yeah, but he won't let you forget it.
No, not at all. Rise of Skywalker has a bumpy start, but finds its footing, and when it does, it flies, especially in the third act, you hack fucking... Ugh!
Could your nose be any farther up the ass of this franchise?
All right, I'm honestly going to stop with this one because it's not getting any worse.
Someone really wants to go to Galaxy's Edge.
I don't know. I can't imagine it's going to get worse than what I'm about to read. Like, this is throw my computer across the room maddening.
Okay, hold on, everyone.
Okay, are we all in the bomb shelter?
Yeah, I'm ready. You may throw away.
Edwin Arnaudin of Asheville Movies. As satisfying a Saga conclusion as...
Is he going to say Return of the King?
He is going to say Return of the King!
Okay, everyone, don't pay attention to that man anymore. He clearly has no idea what he's talking about.
What the fuck?
Okay.
Mark, I've never heard you use that tone before. That was great.
This is not a person who should be allowed near near any electronic device as complicated as a computer.
Like, dear sir, if Disney has paid you off for that review, they owe you more money.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh my god.
Yeah, that is such it. I can't even begin to take down the argument because it's so self-defeating that in its very existence.
At least Peter Jackson had the skill to put all the alternate endings he filmed in the movie.
All right.
And in the third hour, they just shot the editor. We don't need him.
And then the animator collapsed of a heart attack.
Oh my god.
The cartoon peril was no more.
But I will go.
What are you doing for Christmas?
Well, I just got my gift. Okay, last one, for real. Rob Dean of Bullseye.com. The Rise of Skywalker isn't the worst Star Wars film, but it may be the most Star Wars film.
But
No, hang on. Okay, first of all, it is the worst Star Wars film.
Yeah, by far.
no, I still say Attack of the Clones is worse.
Believe me, it pains me to say that there's something worse than Attack of the Clones. It really does.
Attack of the Clone narratively made sense. This doesn't.
But yeah, Attack of the Clones at least does kind of make sense on some level.
Believe me, I don't want to put Attack of the Clones as the worst. Do you have any idea how painful it is for a nerd to actually say something with Christopher Lee in it is the worst of a series? That man is a god.
Hey, I completely agree. That is in large part it, but it is the worst in the series. And it sucks to say that because it should be, look, by all rights, it should be Phantom Menace, but Phantom Menace has superior music. and the most badass lightsaber duel that series has ever produced.
That and Phantom Menace is one of those, it's so bad, it's good, because that's one of those movies you can have fun making fun of.
Yeah.
I mean, the jokes are just hilarious. Attack of the Clones is so bland on so many parts, you don't even get good joke fodder.
I think Attack of the Clones suffers from the fact that George Lucas doesn't know how to direct two people who are supposed to be in love. And so all of that stuff is very forced. And because I feel like the whole movie gets weighted down by it, and it's a good chunk of the movie. But everything else, from the hammy, over the top murder scene with the Sand People, all the stuff with Obi-Wan Kenobi worked pretty well. Even if, even forgiving George Lucas's obsession with the 50s.
Everything about Obi-Wan works in those movies because Ewan McGregor is awesome.
If they are going to go ahead and push the Obi-Wan series with Ewan McGregor onto Disney Plus, I am totally for it.
That's where it seems to be going. Teresa Smith, this is for you, Robert. Teresa Smith of Weekend Special, South Africa. It's still as much fun as ever because nostalgia and exhilarating glee rule the day. Just fucking shoot me. Shoot me.
No,
dead.
that's why the Mandalorian is doing so well. Big difference.
Yeah, the Mandalorian is nothing but caricatures shooting laser beams at each other.
Sweet.
And Baby Yoda.
Can't wait to watch
okay,
it.
sure. And please buy this for Christmas. Because a giant walking merchandisement, a giant walking piece of merch, and caricatures with lasers. That's it.
I'd also like to add to anyone who's currently shrieking at their computer saying that it's not Baby Yoda. We know it's not Baby Yoda, but until that kid actually gets a proper name of some kind, we're going to get off at that.
Haven't they also retroactively removed the name of Yoda's species? Because they only named it in EU stuff that they've since retconned.
Lucas has gone out of his way to reveal as little about Yoda as possible, which I actually have always liked. I loved that this creature, this unassuming creature with the voice of Grover, you know so little about him, but he is one of the most powerful beings in existence. There's just this great, it grabs your attention. There's so much mystery about that. So I'm actually fine. I don't want to know the history of Yoda species. I really don't. But I'm going to continue to call the baby Yoda until either they give him a nickname on the show or something, because if I just keep saying the child, it's going to get weird.
Speaking of weird, and on the subject of completely giving up, Leonard Maltin of LeonardMaltin.com.
Look, the only thing he hasn't given up thus far is the ghost, and we're all actively waiting.
I didn't approach this film with a checklist of do's and don'ts. I just wanted to enjoy myself, and I did, albeit with reservations. I think the assets far outweigh the liabilities and fully expect to be a giant crowd pleaser. You are half of Twitter, sir.
Of all the movies this guy was going to sell out for.
Wait, guys, isn't that pretty much what I said?
I think so.
Great, thanks. Looking forward to.
All right. Well, you can check out all of Leonard Hejna's jewelry on... Just kidding. Eh?
Mark, you're starting to make me glad I didn't send you a Christmas present.
Oh, ouch.
I aim to please.
No, I cornered Mark online when I saw him posting all the pictures he got from gifts from all of you guys. I'm like, wait a minute, why wasn't I told we were exchanging gifts? I wanted to send gifts.
Hang on. I sent Jesse a pirate hat because I keep making fun of the fact that he rips off movies online, and I said he has to do it in a pirate hat, so I sent him one. And I also sent him a heavy metal book. I didn't know Ronnie was sending me anything, so I had to quick jump on fucking Facebook and take care of that. So,
yeah, there's been no proper decision to exchange. Otherwise, I haven't sent anybody anything, and to the best of my knowledge, no one has sent me anything.
Nope.
Okay, 'cause I've sent Mark something before, but I wanted to get involved. I'm like, wait, was there a secret Santa in the office pool, and I wasn't invited because I was considered a weirdo?
No, nothing like that. All right. Oh, Jesus Christ. Larushka Ivan Zadeh of Metro UK. An accomplished end to a culturally significant saga, but let's hope we can now draw a line.
Yeah, no,
You
go
know,
away.
well, you know what? I'll actually give points for that last line there. I think that is something that is actually a good point.
Like, the only line being drawn was one that helped induce George Lucas into discovering this franchise to begin with. It's a cocaine joke.
I'm pretty sure he was smoking weed, not doing cocaine.
Okay, he did. Okay, so he was doing cocaine for the prequel trilogy.
Roger Moore of Movie Nation. It ends just as predictably as it began, a trilogy of Star Wars movies built on George Lucas's greatest hits.
You know, I wish I could object to that, but I'm not sure I can.
All right. Should I do any more of these, or are we good with this?
I'm good whenever you are.
I think I'm good.
Leonard? Just kidding. Alexis?
I'm not saying a fucking word until you apologize.
You know, you look. You know what you have to name your next dog, if nothing else.
All right. With that said, that is it for Damn You Hollywood for the year. We are done reviewing movies. We'll be back in late January with Bad Boys for Life, which we'll be reviewing on January 21st. Instead, you're going to get a lot of TV parties between now. No, I take that back. We're doing one Damn You Hollywood between now and then for 1917, which had its limited release already. We'll have its full release, I believe, on January 10th. So we'll kick off the year with one pick by Robert. So there you go.
The one he gives me all year.
But like I said, then we'll be back doing these proper on a Tuesday night with Bad Boys for Life on January 21st. Got a lot of wrestling and TV parties and source materials coming for the month of January, so go ahead and check all those out. Tomorrow, Christmas Eve, we will have the source material up for Lando, and then myself and Pat Mullen will be doing a TV party for Fuller House Season 5. They lied to us, man. They said that this was going to be the last season, but it ends on a cliffhanger. What the hell? So we'll review that on December 27th.
I hope it doesn't get renewed and you just have to live with the cliffhanger.
That would pain me deep.
No, it wouldn't.
And then next week we've got Fight Club 2 on source material. We got our Metal Hammer review, year-end review. And then we'll have an on-trial. Myself and Sean Comer will be doing Fight Club. Alexis Hejna, what do you got going on?
I was starting to wonder if you were just trying to stick to calling me Leonard so it doesn't activate your Amazon Echo anymore.
You know what's funny? As soon as I said your name, it came on as you were talking.
Yeah, I know. I visited my aunt and uncle this weekend. They found out quickly they have to unplug that thing when I'm around.
No.
All right. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We are still on our winter break. We're not going to be returning to the convention scene until March. But starting after Christmas until New Year's, we are going to be doing a 15% off in all of our sales. So, hey, if you got a little Christmas money and you didn't find something that you wanted amongst your gifts and your stockings, go ahead and check us out. We've got our stores on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. And, of course, you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Protest Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
David Wright, tell them what time it is in Canada.
It is 8:27 p.m.
Woo!
First of all, Mark, Canada has 5 time zones.
Your mother's got 5 time zones. Just do your plug, sir.
Oh, crap, they're going to figure out which one I'm in.
You're in the Pacific.
Thanks, Mark. Or Robert. Both of you.
Okay, first of all, all you honkies. When I said what time it is, that was a colorful euphemism derived from urban slang to say, "Hey, tell them what's going on." God damn fucking white people. Ugh.
White people,
Aren't you Italian and Croatian?
I certainly am, Your Honor.
Wait, weren't you supposed to start the show tonight singing Dominic the Donkey?
No, you made that suggestion. I was going to do no such thing.
It's not a real song.
Oh my god!
So if I ask you what's happening, does that mean you tell me what time it is?
Only in Soviet Russia.
I mean, is this just like where you've taken like the 5 W's and you've like incremented them by 1?
Please plug.
Okay, so personally, I got nothing going on other than the holidays. But I believe we're scheduled. Well, I'm not sure if we're scheduled to do Lost in Space season 2, which I think starts tomorrow.
Yes, but we won't be getting into it until Habba next table. We will be doing a TV party for Lost in Space season 2 on February 4th.
Okay, that should give me plenty of time to get things sorted out. Might check out The Witcher. If that's worth, if I have anything to say about that, might join in for that.
Which we'll be doing that on January 30th.
Okay, so I'll have time to do that. Just finished The Expanse season 4, which was excellent. That would be a good one to add at some point in the future.
I have no time. That's like,
Well, whose fault is that?
it's like 9 million fucking things coming out that were once a graphic novel that I had to add to the schedule.
Just schedule it for when you have Gambit in, because I'm sure it'll change.
Please stop scheduling Gambit. And Mark, stop trying to build synergy. Your life will be easier.
You're not kidding, Jack.
Oh, there's this small graphic novel that's turning into a small release on the small screen. But hey, week long of material. No, just stop. Also, for the record, The Witcher is quite good.
Okay, I will give that a watch. I'm also definitely on for Top Gun Maverick, the greatest movie of next year.
Oh,
not
shut
the
up.
next decade.
Just stop. Just stop. I hope a moose walks into your house.
That's racist.
No,
How do you know one already didn't?
because you're not dead. Come on, man. Moose are violent creatures. They're huge.
I'm begging you to move this on.
Okay, so yeah, I think we got a few things on the list tomorrow. Not tomorrow, for next year that I'll be on.
Terrific. Robert Winfree, take me home, Daddy-O. That doesn't literally mean take me home, honky.
Okay, yeah, no, that reference I understood.
Oh, terrific.
Moreover, you're already home, so taking you there would be.
Oh my god.
A couple of days ago, I stayed up entirely too late, wrecked my sleep schedule while covering UFC on ESPN Plus 23, which took place in South Korea. It was the last UFC event of the year.
And the main event was over in the blink of an eye.
It was about 3 minutes.
Yep.
And poor Frankie Edgar with his Santino Corleone hair just got the stuffing beat out of him by the Korean Zombie. That was a beating. You can find my report for the entire event in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. You can also find the latest edition of the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, where I talk about that event, do a little bit of the news. Discovered a really depressing fact, actually, about the state of the men's flyweight division. Yeah, I know, Eddie. It's a travesty. You speak for the small people.
And that's not just because he's a corgi.
A little bit, but not just because of, yes. I mean, corgis are technically not small dogs. They're medium dogs with really short legs.
I fucking hate my life. Go on. No, just end.
Did you know that corgis were originally bred to herd cattle?
Did you know that in fairy lore, they're actually the mount for the mythical creatures?
Yeah, they have a slight discoloration around their shoulder blades that's referred to as a fairy saddle.
Did you know that Eddie just broke an ornament off the tree when he ran to go get his toy?
I hope you both get attacked on Twitter.
Look, Twitter can bring it. I do not care.
Good.
Come on, Twitter loves cute dogs.
Yeah, like they're gonna get us. We're not gonna get attacked for talking about dogs on Twitter.
Memories all alone in the moon night. Wait,
See, that'll get you attacked on Twitter.
oh, did I just say all alone in the moon night? Oh my god.
If we all haven't been destroyed by now for our affiliation with this podcast, I think we're good.
And let's face it, nobody knows the lyrics to that song besides the word memories.
I'm pretty sure it's not all alone in the moon night. Poor Daniel Radcliffe. Anyway, go on.
Well, there is the Moon Knight series that's going to be coming out soon.
Yes, hence the Daniel Radcliffe reference. He's being looked at for it. Please fucking end your plugs.
Oh, really? Hang on, they're looking at him for Moon Knight?
Yes, they're looking at Daniel Radcliffe for Moon Knight.
For that. I think that'd be great.
I mean, I think you could probably do... I don't know if you could do the accent or not, but...
You know what? I don't think I've heard him do any other... He's done an American accent, but I don't think I've heard him do any others.
His American accent was not inspiring.
You
either.
have 30 seconds.
So that was basically the last 411 Ground and Pound show of the year. I might be releasing something, some kind of either film study or something along those lines in the interim between now and when our next preview. But I'm not entirely sure about that. Some of that will depend on my health between now and then because I caught something and gonna see how long it kicks my backside. So I will be back here to review 1917, a movie I'm actually looking forward to.
And then Bad Boys for Life.
Which I may or may not kill myself to get out of. Still on the fence about that.
All right.
Robert, if you haven't killed yourself yet, it's not going to happen.
Hold on. Mark has never before put a movie featuring Martin Lawrence on the schedule.
So tune in a few weeks to see if Robert is still alive. Until then, for Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations,
Take the under bet.
for David Wright or forever Moose may roam, and for Robert Winfree, who may or may not kill himself before the end of January, this has been Damn You Hollywood. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Merry Christmas.
Happy life change.